Hey leaders, thanks so much for watching again. It is everybody's favorite time of the week, and we are diving into a brand new series called Stepping Up. But before we get there, I was doing some research on being a leader in the church and different ways that we can be leaders together, and found a really great article by a guy named Perry Noble, and it's the 7 non-negotiables for spiritual leaders. So this applies to me, our staff, our pastors, and you guys as small group leader volunteers. The 7 most important things for us as leaders to keep in check as we seek to influence and inspire the next generation together. These will enhance what God is already doing through us because God's doing great things. And if we can work on these 7 things together, God can do immeasurably more than we could ever imagine. And the first thing that I want to talk about, we'll do these each week as we progress on, but it's passion. And I'm not talking about the false excitement over an event that you probably wouldn't attend if you weren't part of the leadership for the church, but I'm talking about a rather raw, unfiltered, emotional, and unapologetic passion. A white-hot fire inside you that consumes and controls and configures us into who Jesus has called us to be and what he's called us to do. Passion shows through your words, actions, your social media accounts. Everything you do shows what you're passionate about. So if someone followed you around for a day, would they see what you're passionate about? Now, passion is different from just enjoying something or having ideas about something. Passion is emotional, and it changes us from the inside out. Passion is a calling to do something bigger than just ourselves or just our ideas. Jesus was extremely passionate about this new and better way for God to relate to his people, so much so that Jesus unapologetically flipped tables and taught radically new ideas. He stared fear in the face and persevered through a lot of mess for you and for me. That's passion. Now be warned, passionate people make very easy targets because no one ever has to guess what they stand for. However, passion, if handled correctly, can be one of the best friends and one of the biggest influences of a leader that a leader can have. So that's my challenge to you. That's something that I want to focus on this week is where's my passion showing through and what God's doing through my life. So the same goes to you. Where's your passion for student ministry shining through in your life? Now this week, like I said, we're in part 1 of a new series called Stepping Up. Now have you ever had a step up moment? A moment where you had to decide, am I going to step up or take a step back? Middle school and high school is full of step-up moments. Even the move from middle school into high school is a step-up moment. You move up a grade, and all of a sudden, you have all these new opportunities in front of you. And it's even more crazy when you think about the move from from high school into college and the rest of your life. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? What impact are you going to have? What kind of person are you going to be? What kind of faith are you going to have? Life's opportunities are in front of you. And the question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to step up into that? Or are you going to step back? And that's what we're going to be talking about for the next couple of weeks together. How to be people who step up in life. And believe me, you're going to want to be a person that's a step-up kind of person. And more importantly, I believe that God wants you to be a step-up kind of person as well. He loves you and has a plan for you. And if you could see what God sees and what God looks at and looks at your future, it would blow your mind. But don't misunderstand me. You always have a choice. Stepping back is always an option. But if we're going to be who God made us to be, then a big first move is learning how to step up. Now to do that, we're going to look at the life of Joshua in the Bible. And what I love about Joshua is he's not that different from you and me. Today we're going to look at where it all started for him. His story begins during the time Moses led the Hebrew people out of slavery from Egypt. Joshua was one of the people who wandered in the desert and grew up hearing about this promised land that God would eventually bring them to. This place was going to be awesome. And since Joshua's people spent 40 years in a desert waiting to get there, you can imagine the height of their expectations, how high their expectations were once they arrived. Now finally, the big day. The Hebrew people are on the border of the land, and the book of Numbers tells us exactly what happens. It says, "Now the Lord said to Moses, send out men to explore the land of Canaan, the land I'm going to give to the Israelites. Send one leader from each of the 12 tribes." That's Numbers 13, verses 1 through 2. So Moses picked 12 guys to do a sort of recon mission in the land. And Joshua is one of the guys picked. That's a huge honor, right? And Moses tells these guys, hey, when you go into this land, there are a few things I want you to look for. See if anyone's already living there, and if so, how strong they are. Pay attention to the soil and the land and the fruit and the trees, and then let me know. Now, it sounds easy enough, but here's a fun fact. Another translation of this verse doesn't say explore. Another translation says spy. This wasn't just some happy-go-lucky, let's find some figs and make new friends kind of a trip. It was a spying mission. So they get back and they fill Moses in and the rest of the people and they say, hey, good news and bad news. We entered the land you sent us to explore, and it is indeed a bountiful country, a land flowing with milk and honey. And here's the kind of fruit it produces, but the people living there are powerful, and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there. We can't go up against them. They're stronger than we are. That's just a few verses later in Numbers. Now, right then, Joshua and the others ran into the first thing that will keep us from stepping up when we come face to face with God and opportunities. And our challenge is we see God's plan for our lives and fear strikes us immediately. They were afraid. How are they going to do this? How would they survive? And so in this huge moment, God's plan for Israel, 10 of the 12 men took a step back. You and I have been there a million times, wanting to take a step back because of fear. That experience is normal and very human, and there will always be very logical, thought-out reasons to step back from where God's leading you. That's what 10 of the spies did, but not Joshua. He and his buddy Caleb came back and gave a very different report. They said, the land we traveled through and explored was a wonderful land, and if the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us safely into that land and give it to us. He is rich. It is rich. It's a rich land flowing with milk and honey. Do not rebel against the Lord, and don't be afraid of the people in the land. They are helpless prey to us. They have no protection, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. That's just one more chapter away. They had a different report. They stepped up. Did they see the giants on the walls? Yeah. Were they afraid? Of course. So why did they give a different report? Here's why. Because of one little phrase, and if the Lord. In the first report, all the spies talked about were the giants on the walls. But in Joshua and Caleb's report, they remembered God. It didn't change what was in the land. It changed how they handled their fear. They knew that without God in the picture, the giants would seem too big, the cities would be too strong, the task would be too impossible. Fear would be in control. But when you factor in God, fear shrinks. The giants seem less giant because God is bigger than the giants. Strong walls seem less strong because God is stronger than those walls. Impossible obstacles seem possible because nothing can stop God. The broken seems fixable. Failure doesn't seem so scary. Losing doesn't seem like the end of the world. And hard work doesn't seem pointless. Reality didn't change, but they factored God into their report. They had the courage to step up. So here's our question for the week. What do your students see when they look at their life right now? What is your students' report for their life? Our prayer for our students and for you is that you would start to factor in God. It changes everything. Whether you step up or step back, if you want to be a person that steps up into all that God has planned for you, factor him in. Because stepping up equals seeing God in your situation. Factoring God in doesn't mean that everything always works out, though. It doesn't mean students make the varsity team or get the lead in the play or ace every test they take in the advanced classes because they had the courage to step up. No, but factoring simply means that when you see a challenge, you decide that God is bigger than your fear. And it also means that you trust that God is bigger than the outcome. Fear fears a God that is bigger than any of your situations. And when you see God in your situation, stepping up becomes a little easier. So that's what we're diving into this first week of Stepping Up. And I hope you're excited. I'm excited for a series that talks about this kind of stuff because our God is big and strong and powerful. So leaders, we'll see you at 4:45 here on the Onona campus. If you're out at 360 United, Omar will meet with you guys ahead of time as well. We just want to share some wins together and just spend some time together before we dive into ministry with our students. So thank you for all you do. Have a great rest of the week. Bye, guys.